Hello and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Death. I'm Kiri Meyer.
And I'm Andy McNeil.
And we are thrilled to be your host for these conversations. Let's Talk Death is brought to you by Heal Grief, which is a social support network creating community after someone has died. Everything we do here is inspired by our core belief that no one should ever need to grieve alone.
Our goal with this program is to have a friendly chat with some amazing people in this field so we can help normalize and educate our Heal Grief community. We are pleased to welcome Kate Longley to our show.
Hello.
Kate Longley is the owner of Eloise and Pease Photography based in Madison, Wisconsin. She specializes in family photography ranging from maternity to senior sessions. The work of Eloise and Pease is to highlight the connections between family members, the little smirk a child always has, or the random thing they do to find comfort. Eloise and Pease strives to not only capture your family images, but serve you in creating those perfect memories.
So welcome, Kate. We are so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. So you do so many different kinds of photo sessions through your business.
I do, yes.
But what I was really struck with when I follow you on social media and I saw that you were able to help some friends of yours capture very meaningful moments during an end of life kind of situation for one of their family members. So I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about why it was so important for them to capture these memories.
Of course. Some great friends of mine, their father-in-law got diagnosed and it was going to be a very quick season that they were in. And so they had him living above them. So she became his full-time caretaker and nurse while also being a mother to her 3 children and a wife to her husband. And as the time was getting really close, she had asked me to come in and capture some family pictures for them so that they could really remember that time. They have a very close bond with him, and she just didn't want to forget what those memories were, even though it wasn't the most beautiful setting or the most, wonderful celebration. It was definitely memories for them that every day, day in and day out, they were still making family connections.
Well, it's, you think about when I viewed the photographs, we want to catch special moments when we're happy or we're experiencing those types of emotions. But life isn't just about those happy moments.
Right.
It's also about moments that have depth to them, right? And certain things that you only get one chance at doing.
Right.
And to capture that so beautifully, how you did, was certainly touching to me as well. So I'm curious that during your time with the family, how was that for you? You're not a family member, but you're also a professional. And how was that for you to be present during that time with them, that session?
That was definitely an interesting kind of road of emotions, I would say, from the start of the session to the end. Walking in, you're prepared, but you're not quite prepared. And there was extended family there as well. And I was there for my good friends. So I wanted to do what they wanted, but also be respectful of the other family members there who didn't want to be in pictures and things like that. But as I'm taking these photographs and I'm witnessing this family connect and his grandchildren just snuggle up with him and love on him and just rubbing his arm. And, he's making these little smirks with his face and he's getting a little closer every once in a while. And so, he can sense what's happening. I was crying, I wasn't full on crying, but there were definitely times where I had to take my camera away from my eye, wipe it, and just also remind the family, like, I'm here, I see you, like, this is beautiful. There were quite a few times where I stopped and I turned to my friend and I said, this is so amazing. You guys have this beautiful connection. I can barely handle it because it felt like I was part of it.
Yeah.
That's special. I feel like to be present in that time, I think for a lot of people can be really difficult. but it can also be so special to be let into the moments. And one thing I also loved is that they let the children into these moments. A lot of times people try to keep kids away because they don't want them to be traumatized or they don't want them to get sad. But what did you see for the kids? I mean, you were talking about them snuggling and things, but can you talk a little bit more about that?
The kids, I mean, I've already gotten text messages from her multiple times. He has since passed. And she is like, I cannot tell you, he's so thankful that he has these images that he can look back on whenever he misses grandpa, and he loves them. They've gone through them multiple times. It brings him so much comfort. And the kids also, they understood exactly what was going on. And I found that the kids cherished that time so much more than I think if they didn't understand what was going on and if the impending death wasn't talked about. I feel like it almost would have been a little bit harder for them to look at the pictures and be like, oh, I thought we were just taking pretty pictures. Whereas they knew, we're doing this. We're not going to have him here forever. We're savoring this. And they connected, I feel like, so much stronger to it that way. So
that sounds like that was part of the instruction to the kids, to let them know sort of what the situation was. But I'm curious, what was your instruction to the family as the photographer? Or did you even have any? Was it just, I'm going to be here, you do your thing, and I'll be here and capture images? I mean, what was that like?
It was a little bit of both. So I kept myself tucked back in a corner. I had 2 different lenses so that I could be in close if I wanted to, but not in their space.
Right.
That's a very precious space that I was not feeling that was not my duty to be that close. And so all I said was, what have you guys been doing these past couple of weeks, as you've been taking care of him? And there was a lot of, well, she likes to come in and nap with him, and he likes to kind of play with his watch. And so I was like, great, just go ahead and do those things. And then I facilitated it in a way of each kid got their own time. The kids had time, all 3 of them together. They had family, just the parents. So it was a lot of, I'm going to give you a slight thing to think about or memory or action, and I'm just going to step back and watch it unfold. There were a couple of times where I did ask ahead of time. I said, I see that you're really doing this a lot. Is it okay if you keep doing that? And if I come in a little bit closer? Anytime I feel like I was getting close to that kind of threshold, it was always an ask first thing. And there were times where they said yes. And then there were times where other family members were like, no, thank you. And I said, no problem. And I just set my camera down so they knew I was not going to invade on that moment for them.
Wow. Yeah.
I love that, because I think that can be a misconception, right? It's like, oh, it's so invasive to have somebody in these moments, when you were completely respectful of all of these moments, and yes, capturing what you could. And I just think that's so beautiful, to give everybody their opportunity, but also to be able to step back and just kind of be present yourself, I think is a great gift, to be able to do that.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And the family has, even those that didn't want their pictures taken, they've seen the gallery because she's shared it with them, and they were so thankful for the ones that were taken. Even though they weren't in them, they still loved them. So that tells me, okay, they can still appreciate it even if they didn't want their own moment captured.
Well, it's an incredible tool for comfort for people.
Oh, yeah.
After they're talking about just grief support after the fact, one of the things that we know today about grief is, years ago it was assumed that you had to cut the strings between your relationship with the person who died, and now we have a better understanding and knowing that we actually continue a bond with those people who have gone on before us, and part of the way we continue that bond is through pictures and memories and those precious moments. So I think it's important. So I want to deviate for just a second, even from the topic just of this one photo shoot, because I want to jump off on something. And this was before we were talking before the show, and we were talking about your kids, and that your kids are aware of death, and that we all die. And I think there's something here, just this whole conversation about death, this seems like there's something here to talk about for a few minutes about capturing the moments we have in life, not just those moments at the end of life, but
Right.
you do a lot of photographs. It looks like you spend time with families to capture them as a family in whatever setting that looks like. And to me, that speaks about, we all know that death can come anytime and it could come sudden. And how do we capture moments
Yes.
while everyone's healthy and those types of things? And so somehow keying in on the importance of what you do. And I'm curious how you see that. And if for you, it's I know you're a photographer and that's your profession, but it seems like it's almost a healing thing to be able to provide people that you're capturing these moments. So I just was curious about that.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because I feel that that is my one goal in photography is, if you even come to me for your family session, I'll get everybody looking and smiling. But what I would rather have is capturing something that you guys always do together. I talked about it the other day. I have a wonderful client who, for her child, rubbing his parent's ear is his soothing mechanism. He does it when he's tired, anxious, all the time. We had a photo session. He was doing it. I know this about him. I got that. And it's just this close-up of the only thing that's in focus is just his smile and rubbing his mom's ear. And then when that gets sent off to them, I think about long-term, right? Oh my goodness. When he's older, or when they're looking back at family pictures, that's the one picture that you're like, oh, remember when you used to do this? Or remember that one smile you always used to do when you were 4? And you can still have an image of that. It's about really creating those moments, whether it be for an end-of-life photo shoot or a regular session. It's just connecting. Those human connections really is, I think, what can help translate into those, as we start talking about death.
In some ways, it's what makes a picture more than a picture. It's what makes it art. It's what makes it, something that's alive in that regard.
It brings back those memories. Like, it's almost like a visceral reaction to an image, because it immediately takes you back to where you were then.
Yeah.
And what I think I love about that is everybody's so worried these days about, everything looking Instagram perfect, or like you're saying, like everybody smiling and, everything is absolutely perfect. But like you two were saying, there are pictures that you capture that, I know there was one where a baby was just kind of holding on to his mom, and you didn't see the mom's face, and you only saw a little bit of the baby, but it was the hands, the grasping, and it brings back so much more. So, again, you can always look back at that picture, and even if a child is looking back at that picture, when someone has died or whatever the situation may be, again, like you said, it's not just, oh, look at our family, we all look so beautiful and we're all smiling. It's, oh my gosh, I remember that feeling. I remember that emotion. And there's just something to be caught with that I think maybe sometimes we lose in today's society.
I agree. And I'm hoping that, I know for a lot of other photographers that I'm friends with, we're trying to really move towards that connection piece, because we connect with our clients and we want to know and love on them and share their victories and their sorrows. And we truly deeply care about that. And so when we care, and then when we can create that through their images, it really brings it back to just human connection.
Yeah. And again, then based on that conversation we had prior, we connect as humans on a lot of things. And one of the things we connect on is that we're all going to die. Right? And so moments become important. The people in our lives become important when we're aware of that. We only have a few minutes left, but I did want to take just a moment. I want to give you a second to talk a little bit more before we go, but I did want to remind those who are watching the program that if you're enjoying the conversation, go to healgrief.org. You can look, and there's a number of episodes that we have with a lot of different types of conversations. We encourage you to check those out. as well, again, at healgrief.org. But as we have these few minutes left, I wonder if there might be some of our viewers who are thinking about like having this as an option for themselves. Or I'm even thinking of hospices and other programs probably that would say, wow, how do we have a resource like that we could direct families to, just thinking about how you help people capture those important moments. Are there any pointers that you would give just to help families to know how to go about this smoothly, or what that might look like, or that type of thing?
Couple of pointers would be, if you already have a family photographer that you're familiar with, do not hesitate to ask them. They would be more than happy to either help you or help refer you to somebody they know that does a good job on that. And also, I always say, whether it's a newborn session, a senior session, end of life, we want it to be as stress-free as possible. We will take care of everything else. All that matters is you show up and know that what matters is your connections. We'll take care of any directing. If something needs to be moved, we'll do it. But don't be afraid to be vulnerable in that moment, because when you look back on it, in 5 years or so, it's going to mean so much to you.
It'll be priceless.
It'll be so priceless. And to be vulnerable for 30 minutes can give you something that'll last you for the rest of your life, and then also generations after, to be able to look at those.
So one more question. If someone wants to engage you in this type of thing, how would they get a hold of you?
Sure. Yeah. My email is eloiseandpeas@gmail.com. And so it's ELOISEANDPEAS@gmail.com. I also have a Facebook and Instagram page, which are at Eloise and Peas. And if you are interested, I am happy to talk to you about that.
Well, Kate, we want to thank you once again for being our guest here at Let's Talk Death. It's been awesome to have you. And thank you for helping us take a deeper look into this very kind of new, interesting way to capture some really sweet and meaningful moments at the end of life. What a wonderful gift.
Thank you so much for asking. And I just hope that this will, give some people some ideas and maybe another way to find some comfort.
Definitely.
Great. Awesome. So to our those watching the program, if you would like to learn more about Heal Grief, as I said before, please visit healgrief.org. You can always learn more about Heal Grief's program Actively Moving Forward as well by visiting healgrief.org.
Let's Talk Death episodes will air monthly, so make sure you sign up on healgrief.org to receive our newsletter for a link to next month's episode. And we want to thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on Let's Talk Death.